Hey guys, welcome to our Thursday night live stream on the Rob Braxman channel. And again, to kind of give you the idea of the format, I talk for 30 minutes on a given topic, and then after that, it's kind of a free for all. And I actually use this first 30 minutes to discuss topics that, believe it or not, are short and doesn't really fit into a long form format because, maybe it's too simple and I use the opportunity in a live stream to actually gauge if you're actually understanding what I'm talking about. So anyway, that's our topic for tonight. We are going to talk about the phone, the SIM cards, eSIMs, standard SIM cards, and the other things that go on with the phone and relating to the security of the phone because people don't actually understand what that means as far as can you really actually be secure on the phone if you take out the SIM card. So we're going to answer that question. But in the meantime here, I'm just checking to make sure we have a connection. Okay, hold on while I verify our connectivity on YouTube. Okay, we are on YouTube, and then let me just check Rumble here for a second. Last time I checked and Rumble wasn't there. There's Rumble. Okay, everything is good. So we are live here. Now I'm gonna be frank with you guys. James. Wow, you're like already giving tips early in the game. Thank you very much. I'm gonna be frank with you. I had a very bad day. In fact, many of you will know about that. So yeah, it's been a very bad day, and I'll explain to you. And I will use this opportunity to also apologize to my customers, the customers who have a Brax 2 phone because we have kind of a major crisis today. So anyway, if you have a Brax 2 phone and you have the original one, the Brax 2 International, that was fine, not affected. But if you had a Brax 2 USA, the USA version, something terrible happened today. And what happened was an update was released, and I myself have a Brax 2 International, and the update was released, and for whatever reason that I didn't know anything about, and I had the update for a month already, so I was testing it for a month. It was running fine, and the Brax 2 USA's all got bricked. So if you took an update today, your phone was bricked. It basically erased the IMEI. So it was a terrible crisis because in fact, I didn't know anything about it until we were trying to figure out what was going on. What the update actually did, because it didn't affect the Brax 2 US, the Brax 2 International ones. It affected just a small subset, and then we found out what the issue was, and I couldn't really get a clear answer. And it was in the early afternoon or mid-afternoon that we found out that the phones got bricked. We even tried to flash IMEIs, and they got bricked. So the update bricked the Zucking phones. So it was a terrible issue here. And fortunately, I managed to get the EU devs to stop the update. And yeah, but the problem is many of you already updated. So as I found out, the people who updated, I rushed to send out brand new phones to just about everyone I can send it to today. And obviously, expecting the phones to have been bricked. It's been a major crisis today. So anyway, I think I reached most of the people who had bricked phones, and I shipped one before the end of the day. And we were like, because we didn't even know what the problem was, and it was kind of last minute. And I wasn't aware of it because I myself have a Brax 2 International phone. I had no idea there was going to be a difference in the update in the way it handled Brax 2 USA. So that was a terrible crisis. And we tried to solve it. As people complained, I just didn't even ask. I just sent out a brand new phone to everyone. So we're kind of running low on phones because I had to send out all the phones to the people who had a Brax 2 USA. The ones with International, no problem. So it only affected a subset. So that's really, really bad news. And, I don't know how that escaped the devs. And yeah, it definitely was, a misstep there. And I'm discussing it with them, but um, all I can do is try to resolve it as fast as I can. So I sent new phones to everyone that I found had the update. So fortunately, not everyone updated this morning, because if you did, oh my gosh, it would have been a bigger crisis because I may not have enough phones. So, we just did it. We didn't even think about it. We just sent out new phones, and we don't even know if we can recover those phones that got bricked. We just sent out the phones immediately because that's the right thing to do. And I hope we can get back in operation. So many of those people should get their phones Saturday or so. So unfortunately, there was just no time to react there. So we shipped it quickly, as quick as we could. And I'm really sorry that this happened. I mean, I definitely was not prepared for this, because it's not something that I expected, since I was running the same update for a month already and didn't expect it. And yeah, so anyway, the people who made the changes to the OS did not check that it works differently on different models. I thought the actual chips were the same, and I thought it was just a different baseband modem. I had no idea it would affect it in such a negative way. So anyway, I'm trying to do my best here with that, and I just want to make sure that you all know that yes, I acknowledge that a mistake was made, and I'm trying to solve it as quickly as I can. And if you're not in a rush, no problem. But I'm shipping a brand new phone to everyone who has the issue. Anyway, that's just I just had to get that off my chest here. It was kind of a crazy day. I had no idea if I was going to be able to do the live stream because of the seriousness of what happened. But by the time we reached the end of the day, I think I managed to ship out phones to just about everyone who mentioned they did the update. So anyway, that got. I think we should just be patient there. You will get your phone, and everything will be up and running shortly. Okay, so, and somebody says, can a phone not work without an IMEI? And that's actually related to the question here, so we're going to get into that. One of the things that happened when we did this update was the reason it was bricked was because for some reason the update erased the IMEI of the phone, which is the weirdest thing I've ever seen, because the IMEI is in the baseband modem. So the update, I don't know how it's able to do that actually. I don't know what part of the code can do that. Maybe it's like a wrong driver from the OEM, maybe? It may not even be directly connected to the OS. It could be just an updated driver that perhaps was incompatible with that baseband modem. In any case, this is a very complex field here, so we were kind of caught off guard there. But yes, without the IMEI, no carrier will accept you. And the reason is the first part of the IMEI, which is the equipment identifier, is the TAC code, TAC code. And that TAC code identifies the kind of equipment to see if it's compatible on their network. And then they can assign it to 3G, 4G, 5G, depending on the model. And if you don't have an IMEI, they can't do that. And so they basically, block you from the network. And that's what happened. People said their SIM card no longer worked, which is connected to the topic today. And they were, and of course I was wondering why, because I've never seen that before. And and because there's no TAC code, there's no IMEI, there's no TAC code. Without the TAC code, they can't determine the equipment. So many of you know that all the Brax 2 phones are being advertised as Pixel 4a's on the IMEI. So we use an IMEI that said this is a Pixel 4a, and so no problem. That works fine. But this one wiped it out. The update wiped it out on the Brax 2 phones. So I think there's something else included in the update. Again, perhaps a incorrect OEM driver that got included that wiped the, maybe it's incompatible, that wiped the baseband modem portion and bricked those phones. We couldn't even flash the phones. Many people tried. They tried to flash the IMEIs of the phone after it was bricked and couldn't do it. So personally, I think it is bricked. So, oh well. So we replaced the phones immediately and stopped the update. So which raises the question, what exactly happens, because one of the effects of the losing the attack code was the SIM card stopped working and the SIM cards became invalid. And yeah, because if the carrier, so the carrier actually has code in the SIM card itself. Just so you understand what's in the SIM card has the carrier identifiers. So the carrier information is on the SIM card. This is why every carrier has its own SIM card. Every MVNO, so if you're Mint is an MVNO of T-Mobile, Patriot Mobile or Pure Talk is an MVNO of AT&T, you're going to have your own SIM card. So everyone has their own SIM card. Now, back in the old days, if you were on CDMA, there were no SIM cards. So SIM cards is something that happened after CDMA. So if you were on Sprint and Verizon, in the past, there were no SIM cards. Now there is. So now they give you the option of a standard SIM card or a eSIM. So many of you don't even know about that if you're using Sprint. You never knew about SIM cards. So some people get confused with the SIM card thing if you've never actually worked with a SIM card before. Although, iPhones being the most popular probably in the US have been using SIM card for a while. But for those who are not familiar with it, so you have a SIM card which is this is not a SIM card, but something of that size, and you stick it into the phone, and then the SIM card. This is not a SIM card. This is a SD card. The chip then has the IMEI. I'm sorry, the IMSI. That's the identifier that says the unique identifier of the phone is the IMSI, plus the manufacturer code is on there, plus a secret code called a K1, which is the secret code that is passed instead of the IMSI. So instead of passing IMSI, it passes the secret code K1, which then allows the carrier to say, oh, I know what that IMSI is. It's represented by that K1 that's on here. So on the air, you never actually see the IMSI nowadays. You just see the K1 value. And the carrier has a record of all the K1s and which match whatever IMSI, and that's how they can tell. Now, the reason we're bringing this up is this is a question for you. So some people are saying, well, is it secure? Is my phone secure if I take off the SIM card? So let's say, just for the sake of discussion, you were in a protest. And, people who watched the progression of the January 6th Capitol riot stuff, you will see that they actually tracked every phone based on the SIM card. And what equipment did they use to track? Well, they used a Stingray or IMSI catcher. So the IMSI is in the chip. This is where the IMSI is. An IMSI catcher knows who your carrier is because it's unique. It's a unique chip per carrier, and then who it relates to as far as subscription. It's the International Mobile Subscriber Identity. So this gives you a subscription. Without this, you have no subscription. They don't know who your carrier is, and so on. So what happens is if you have a spy device called an IMSI catcher or Stingray, which is used by the government, and now hackers can make their own Stingray. It's actually doable in 3G, pretty hard to do in 4G. If it's even possible to do in 4G, probably not, but in 3G it is. But there's no more 3G in the US, so it's not an issue in the US. But Stingray is a government machine made by the Harris Corporation, and it's going to look for the eSIMs. The question now is, what happens if you remove the eSIM from the phone? Can a Stingray track you? And the answer is no. Stingray is an eSIM catcher. This is the eSIM. Without this, there is no eSIM. Without an eSIM, you cannot be addressed. So your phone is not emitting this constant signal. When you have an eSIM, your phone is actually talking to the cell tower pretty regularly. Like, every few seconds it's going to contact the carrier to report in, check, that there's a connection with the carrier, see if there's a phone message, see if it needs to ring, see if it needs to show you text traffic and so on. So there's constant pinging that occurs with the phone when you have your SIM card. Now let's say you pull the SIM card out, then what happens? Your phone doesn't talk to the carrier now. That pinging, first of all, it doesn't know which carrier you go to, and the carrier will not accept, this is important, the carrier will not accept your signal unless you have a subscription, which makes sense. Because if you don't have an eSIM, as far as the carrier tower is concerned, you're not a customer. They'll ignore your signal if it was pinging. Well, of course, you take the chip out, you don't even know which tower to talk to, because you have to talk to specific towers, and you can't talk to the tower if you don't have an identifier, because that's how you get validated. Your phone will send out the K1 identifier, which is on this, which then identifies the eSIM. So, given that, when you remove the SIM card and you're walking around in a protest, yes, I imagine that the eSIM catcher is not going to catch anything, because there's no pinging. You're not pinging, so there's no traffic to catch. So somebody asked me, yeah, you can just put it in your pocket. It's not transmitting anything if you remove it. Somebody said, do I have to put the chip into a Faraday bag? No. You don't have to do anything. Just take it off. It's done. Okay, put it in your pocket and just don't, if you lose it, get another one. They'll give it to you for free. In fact, I just fired up a new 2FA phone. I went to T-Mobile, and they sent me a SIM card, didn't work. And so I said, doesn't work. I walk into T-Mobile, and within 5 minutes, I was walking out with a brand new SIM card, and they said it's going to turn on in 20 minutes. And it was, no issue. So now, the concern is, if you take out the eSIM, how is it that your phone can dial emergency 911 emergency calls? So people say, I don't believe you, because if my phone can dial 911, then obviously you're lying. Your phone is talking to the carrier, but that's not really what it does. So all phones are built with this 911 emergency calling service. And if you dial 911, it's going to go to any tower. This is a requirement by law, that if you dial 911 as part of the E911 whatever regulation, if you dial 911, your phone is going to initiate a call to any carrier without an eSIM, without anything. It won't require any kind of data. And then it will route the call to the emergency responder. Okay, but you have to have dialed 911. It doesn't do that unless you dial 911. When you dial 911, I want you to understand what's actually going to happen. When you dial 911, the first thing that your phone is going to do is triangulate your position. It's actually going to connect to all the cell towers in the area and say, what is the signal strength of all the cell towers around me, so I can spot a location. So your location then is determined by the towers. It gives you a triangulated position when you hit 911. It doesn't do that otherwise. Okay? It doesn't do that unless you dial 911. Okay, now when you do dial 911 and you make the connection, it triangulates your position. The responder also knows, based on if you have a SIM card on it, will also know what your location is based on the address on the subscription. But of course, if you do not have a SIM card, it doesn't have that data. Okay, so they don't know who the subscriber is without the data. But a phone can still be used to dial 911 even without a SIM card. Okay, even without a SIM card, you can dial 911. So, at the very least, keep some old phones, and you can actually use them to dial 911 even if you don't have a SIM card on it. Okay, so that's just something interesting to know. Now, let's hit some couple other angles in here, and it's recovered now. Okay, the signal dropped. Okay, let me talk about eSIM for a moment. Okay, it's gonna. I'm waiting for your reactions here to see if it actually went back. Okay, so the problem with eSIM is there's no way to remove the SIM card. So you don't have the freedom of saying, I'm gonna protest. Let me take out the SIM card so nobody is surveilling me. It's a mass surveillance situation. Anyone can carry an IMSI capture device, even mobile, or even a little drone up in the sky can capture IMSI. Buildings may have them, like the Capitol buildings, they had them. So they had IMSI devices there, IMSI catchers. And they caught everyone, with a phone and can catch all the IMEIs present, in which case then they know anyone in the area just from the IMEIs. The IMSI, sorry, not the IMEI, the IMSIs. So given this problem, what is your flexibility with an eSIM? As you know, the iPhones no longer have a SIM card, the new ones, and they're pushing eSIM, and that it's terrible if they push eSIM as the only option, because then you don't have the option of the flexibility of removing it when you want to. So on a Brax 2 phone, for example, if you do not remove the SIM card, you're still okay, because there's an actual switch in the software to turn it off in software. So you don't have to physically even remove it, but there's a way to disable it. And many devices don't have that. So if you're able to turn it off on there, then that is good, if you can do that. Yeah, and that's not an option that's offered on many phones like iPhones. So I'm very distrustful of eSIMs, because I'd like to have the option of being able to remove the SIM card. If I'm being chased, like the Jason Bourne movie, the Jason Bourne video I made. If I'm being chased, it just makes me feel comfortable knowing that I can take the IMSI out. And I'm sure you do too. Now, in the last few minutes here, let me tell you the other problem. The problem is not just the SIM card. And this is something I tried to explain in the different topics, and it's actually quite confusing, because unfortunately the phone is connecting to different things even without a SIM card, and even without lots of things. And one of the connections that it always makes, which is pretty much almost impossible to get rid of, is the connection to Google, because every phone is connecting to Google using supple. Supple is in order to get satellite GPS, your phone triangulates your rough position using cell tower triangulation, and then reports that triangulation to Google through a process called supple, SUPL, which you don't need to understand what supple means. User plane, whatever. I can't even remember what it means. It's basically, it enables fast GPS. Okay, so it's fast GPS. In order to do fast GPS, your phone has to tell the supple where you are roughly, and then supple says, oh, if I know where you are roughly, I'm going to tell you which satellites to connect to immediately. You don't have to wait for the satellites. You can connect to the satellites because we know you're in LA, and these are the satellites active out of the, so many satellites up in the sky. You need to talk to 51, 29, 32, and 17, something like that, right? And, you need 4 satellites. And with those 4, then it can triangulate your position. Now, it can't do that uh, uh, without supple quickly. If you don't have supple, your GPS on your phone actually has to try out satellite 1, satellite 2, satellite 3, satellite 4, and test out, what they find in the sky, which takes forever, about 3 minutes. So it takes 3 minutes to find out which satellite to connect to. So they solved that by supple. The problem with supple is that, it's connecting to the cell tower, getting your cell tower triangulated position at all times. And then it reports it to Zucking Google. Okay, so your phone, and this is every phone, reports a supple location to Google. And this is the part that we're not actually absolutely 100% clear on, is does supple go through the internet, which it sometimes does, supple.google.com, or does it sometimes skip the internet and goes through SS7, which is the cell network, which requires a SIM card. Now, some of you may have doubts about this, and I will raise some doubts with you that this is just internet, because some people say, all you have to do is, go to block the firewall, supple.google.com. Yeah, your GPS won't work too well, but at least you block it from going, giving the cell tower triangulation to Google. The problem is that if it goes through the SIM card through SS7, then you can't stop it. There's no software to stop it if it's going through SS7, which is the cell tower, the carrier kind of lane for communications. Now, how do I know it's could be going through SS7? Well, guys, I'm going to give you a clue, which is very interesting. Some of you may have looked at your APNs. Have you looked at your APNs? Have you noticed that some APNs have supple on it? Suck. Some APNs have supple, which is the suspicion that, we've had, that there may be other ways for supple to reach Google beyond just the internet. And so how do we actually stop this? We are stopping it on the internet side, but how do we stop it on the carrier side if it's not going through the internet? Because supple may be built in to the carrier side. And how do I know again? Because it's listed on your APN, your access point name for your carrier, which is on your phone. So that is the mystery of the day. That I don't know the answer to that. It's a question that I raise. I do not know the answer. It's something to be concerned about. Okay? So in addition to that cell tower triangulation, again, even without SIM card, your phone is also doing something called NLP. Okay, network location provider, which means it's doing Wi-Fi triangulation, meaning it's looking for Wi-Fi's around you and finding your location there, and submitting that to Apple or Google, those two, one of those two, depending on what kind of phone you have. And some of you will have stopped that. If you have a Brax 2 phone, for example, we do not use Wi-Fi triangulation. But what happens is, even when Wi-Fi triangulation isn't working, it's using cell tower triangulation. I mean, it's just screwed up. I mean, the phone just, the phone just does a lot of stuff. I'm hoping, though, that without an identity, even if it gets tracked, that it's, there may be a limit to what they can do at Google, because Google is the one that collects all this. I don't really know what's, Google is capable of world surveillance through supple. I mean, seriously. It could track an IMEI and, everything has supple, including iPhones. Yeah, APNs are carrier data that exists in every phone. So anyway, that's just giving you some of this understanding of this. Some of this is mysterious. We don't actually know, the impact of some of this. I'm just letting you know in advance that, it's something I've discussed in many videos, but it's not clear. It's not clear. No supple on your APN listing. But I've seen examples where supple was on. Somebody posted one and supple is on there. So yeah. So in fact, I'm curious. Before I take a station break, let me just look at my own Brax 2 here and see if supple is on. I'm on T-Mobile. I want to just see if T-Mobile has supple on here. This is just, it has been bothering me, and I don't necessarily know what the answer is. Okay, and I've seen the APNs with supple on it. So hold on, let's see. Up, yep, T-Mobile supple, yep, supple on the APN. Supple on the APN on T-Mobile. I told you I've seen it. Okay, so I'm not lying here. I pretty photographic memory, and I saw it and I said, "What the zuck?" Okay. Anyway, let me take a short station break here, and that break is to tell you about my sponsor, which is Akamai Linode. I gotta change the logo here, because they changed the logo on their website and they actually are calling themselves now just Akamai. Instead of Akamai Linode, they're just saying Akamai. So Akamai is my sponsor. And on Akamai, if you're using their cloud services, because Akamai has many services, but if you're using their cloud services, they're giving you cloud servers that you can rent, kind of like GoDaddy or AWS or one of those, and then you rent what is called a Linode. Okay, so the Linode is the node that you're renting, the server that you're renting on the cloud, and that's what Linode does. And what's special about Linode is that Linode was a private company before Akamai bought it, and incredibly good prices. I mean, really, I can't tell you how much I save. I'm going to say I'm paying maybe a third of what I was paying on Amazon, AWS. I mean, that much difference. A third. It's a third. So that makes Amazon 300% more expensive. And it's cheaper than anyone have found, and yet the service is still very, very good. I mean, I run a lot of servers, and I talk to Linode probably every day. I'm talking to somebody at Linode every day, and they're very, very competent. They're very good staff. I think they're in Philadelphia. I'm not exactly certain, but they've been my sponsor for 2+ years, 2.5 years, and they've done such a great job with me that I actually recommend them. And they're my only sponsor. Can you believe that? The only sponsor I take. So that's kind of incredible. Anyway, if you use the code linode.com/RobBraxman, they give you $100 credit, and you can use that within 2 months on anything you use at Linode. So keep that in mind. Okay. So Akamai is huge, obviously, and many of you may not even know what Akamai is. So if you're a big player like Microsoft and you need to distribute a lot of content around the world, and you have, 1 billion users, how the heck do you pass your content around the world? You can't just put a bunch of servers and say, oh, I can handle 1 billion users. I just need, a bunch of servers. You can't do that. So that's where a company like Akamai comes in, because Akamai, allows for maintenance of CDNs, or actually duplicates of your data, and they duplicate on their worldwide infrastructure. So when somebody visits your website, they don't actually visit your website, but they go to an Akamai server somewhere where they have a cache copy of your website, and that actually allows traffic to be minimized. So that's what these big companies do. That's what they use Akamai for. So, and that's been, Akamai is one of the big tech companies that have been around since the beginning of the internet. So I'm sure they handle, a lot of these big companies. I don't know if they handle like Amazon and so on because Amazon's so big they do everything themselves. But I'm sure they do Microsoft and Yahoo and all that. I'm sure all of those utilize the infrastructure of Akamai. Okay. uh, Car GPS is passive device unless it has a GPS function. Yeah, the terminology is called assisted GPS. That's the fast GPS I was talking about that uses supple. So without supple, then the connection is slower. Um, I believe every device now, every modern device is assisted GPS. So you may be wrong in that. Your car may have assisted GPS. I'm not sure they make too many devices that do not have supple. So yeah, I don't think so. Because people are expecting that when you turn on your device that it's going to get a GPS position, not going to wait 3 minutes. So if they have, because my old GPS from like 2000, I have a GPS I use in sailing, and we use it in racing, and it took 3 minutes to turn it on. So when you're preparing the boat, I already have it on because I know it takes 3 minutes. And nowadays you power on your GPS and it's always on. If it's always on, it's using a GPS. Let's see. They also. By the way, I have a projected topic for. Do you think iPhone trade-ins? I have a projected. So if you, by the way, if you give me an iPhone, then I get tracked. You send me an iPhone and it's off, and then all the it's basically you're basically sending me an AirTag. Yeah, that's one way to say I want to know where Rob is, so let's send him an iPhone. Yeah, don't send me any like iPhones. Do you take? Let's see. So Monster asked a question, about politics and profiling, and that reminds me of my next topic. What is the safest phone to use? The Google phone, Echelon, a de-Googled phone. So what kind of de-Googled phones? Well, we have many in the store. We have our Brax 2 phones, these. And then you can go up the scale all the way to a Pixel 6. So we have Pixel 6s in stock, Pixel 5s, Pixel 4s, Pixel 4a's, Pixel 4a 5Gs. And those are actually more expensive than this Brax 2 phone. And then we have cheaper ones, the Pixel 3a's. So yeah, so all of those are safe because they're all de-Googled. So any one of those is good, depending on your budget. And Brax 2 phones are, in theory, easier to maintain because Brax 2 phones can, first of all, they're brand new. All the other Pixels are used because in order to flash them, they have to be used. But a Brax 2 phone is brand new. So you're actually getting a brand new phone with a warranty. That's why, like what happened today with the phones getting bricked, and we replaced every one of them today. So I found out there was a problem today. They got replaced today. You drive an 84. The IMEI is spoofed on the Brax 2. In fact, you can change the IMEI yourself. The updates can be maintained on different versions of Android. So, and we've already shown that we can do that. So you can upgrade to higher versions of Android without losing your data. And just more flexibility in resets. You can reset a Brax 2 phone without losing apps. The standard apps remain. I mean, you lose apps, but the standard apps remain. So you can reset it all day. Whereas a Lineage OS phone, if you reset it, then it's you have to send it back to us. So anyway, so that's there's some advantages to the Brax 2. The advantages to the Pixels are they're higher grade phones. They have faster CPUs. They may have more advanced cameras and they're more pricey. So, uh, yeah, as much as double. But because they're used phones, they end up being, not too far away from the price of a brand new. So a used Pixel is not too far from the price of a brand new Brax 2 phone. Okay, so you have choices. Any issues using Brax 2 and the cloud? Uh, what cloud? You don't use a Brax 2 in the cloud. You don't use uh, Google Drive, Google Docs. You don't use any of that. You don't use iCloud. None of that. None of that. Now, I will show you in a upcoming video one of these days. I'm not certain yet when. Uh, sometime in March maybe. There will be a video about a alternative cloud option for many of you using hardware. And I'm getting the equipment for that, and I will show you a device that allows you to access the cloud, your cloud, at your house using whatever phones you have. So that will be in a video coming up. So I've already arranged for the equipment to arrive, and it's not sponsored per se, but the company is providing the equipment. So I will have test equipment from a company, and we will try it out, and then we will allow you to use cloud services without using a cloud. Okay, and you can use it to any degree you want. If I have data turned off on my phone, can I still be tracked? Well, of course. If I have data turned off on my phone, can I still be tracked? Well, I already told you about Supple, so Supple will keep going. If you do not have internet, which I don't believe you'll keep off all the time permanently, what happens then? So you're not going to use the services on the phone? The problem is, at some point, you're going to have internet on the phone. You can have Wi-Fi, which is the same as any kind of internet. Once you do that, then your phone may send and upload all the data it accumulated over time. Okay, so anyway, that's you can temporarily delay sending any kind of data from your phone, but I don't know how you can actually stop it once you connect to the internet, because it can do it in batch. Any consideration using your Brax 2 phone on my local cell service provider? Will they connect it without any problems? Yeah, we have found, okay, as you know, we flash our Brax 2s with a spoofed IMEI now. We don't have any issue running on any carrier with the exception of one. The exception is Verizon. Now, Verizon, Brightheimer. Oh, thank you. Yes, it's a very expensive day. Brightheimer. Yes, it's a very expensive day. I'm not an enjoyable day for me, but I hope to make it better for all of you. So, but that's okay. I'll survive. I'll survive. So, so Verizon. The only problem with Verizon, phone calling works with Verizon. Data works. The problem with Verizon is incoming text. You can even send out outgoing text. Incoming text won't work because the APN is wrong. And there's no way to update the APN because they grayed it out, so you can't update the APN. So now we're kind of stuck. We have no way of making it work on Verizon. You may be able to make it work on a Verizon MVNO. So if your area uses Verizon, as long as you don't go to Verizon directly, but to one of their MVNOs, like what's an example? Like Red Pocket, might work fine. Might work fine. It's just an issue of Verizon itself. So there's no problem. The phone works. So the hardware works. So I think there's an APN issue, and nobody at Verizon wants to help. So zuck them. Okay, so other than that, it works fine. So we're not actually aware of any more issues as long as we use the spoof IMEI. So all Brax 2 shipped now have spoofed IMEI. Some of you have very old Brax 2s from before August or prior, and they do not have spoofed IMEIs. And I have a video as well as instructions on BraxMe to spoof your IMEI. So you can do that. So it is doable. Okay? So that's one of the advantages of Brax 2 is you can spoof the IMEI. There's no way to do that on, let's say, a Pixel. You can't change the IMEI in a Pixel. Okay? So is it possible to buy Brax 2 from Europe? No. If not, our other smartphone alternatives like Brax 2. I said all the alternatives. If you're wanting it to use Brax OS, Brax 2 comes from here. It does come from Europe, but I sell it from here. So I don't have a VAT account. I can't sell from Europe, so it's just handled from here. And I found that if I sold in Europe, because of VAT and all the processes and all the fees, it really balances. The fees will kind of cover the same things as VAT, so there's no actual savings. So I decided it was probably not worth my time to consider having something in the EU. I may in the future consider using Amazon International and then do it like that. But I have not found that Amazon is good for what I'm selling. It requires too much support. The VPN service Tor is part of the VPN service. It's included. Okay, we do not have a stock of Brax routers. Let me just tell you about that. Some of you may be interested. So we haven't had a Brax router in, my gosh, it's over a year and a half. So because you can't buy Raspberry Pis, since COVID, there's not been a Raspberry Pi easily available. I cannot buy them in volume, so you can buy them individually, but they're super expensive. Okay, so because of this, I'm coming up with an alternate solution. Can the Brax 2 phone data be wiped before entering? Yeah, do a reset. Do a factory reset. Okay, so anyway, this is the solution that I'm coming up with, and I'm working on it right now. And I got interrupted with all this crisis with the bricking of the phones today. I'm using an Intel NUC. In fact, I can't show it to you because I don't want to shake them. They'll disconnect. But I'm using Intel NUCs, NUCs. These are mini PCs. I don't have a spare one here to show you, but they're like a little brick like this. Okay, it's a mini PC. And what I'm doing is using one of these as a router. So I installed Ubuntu on it, and I'm setting it up now, as an access point. So it's a router, but it's also a computer. And what I'll do is I will sell a Linux installation complete for these Intel NUCs. They're around $200, considering that you can get a Raspberry Pi with case and power for $150. Which is too expensive for a Raspberry Pi, in my opinion. You can just buy, for an extra $50, you can buy a more powerful unit. This is running an Intel processor, and we can install Linux on it. So I've installed Linux on it. I'm working on it now, and then in addition to the router software that I can put on it, I can likely put something else on it, like SyncThing. Can I use packet capture on a phone? You should packet capture downstream, not on a phone. Yeah, you you do packet capture downstream to make sure you got everything. So yeah, if you're going to put a Wireshark, you put it downstream. Okay, so the major brands have more frequencies. No, the major brands all have the same frequencies. But the 5Gs have different frequencies. The 5G phones. Okay, so anyway, I am not going to load pfSense on this or anything like that. I'm going to load standard Ubuntu, and it's going to be managed with router software, with Tor and all the same stuff I do now. And that'll be managed with my interface that's standard on the Brax routers, and it'll be available for use on an Intel NUC. So if you get yourself an Intel NUC, you'll be able to just plug in this USB stick, for example. You can download it, make a live USB, stick it in, install Linux, because it will be a complete Linux on it. And then there you are. Now, I can pre-install certain other things in here because it's more powerful. And you can actually put a monitor and keyboard on an Intel NUC, and you can use it for other kinds of things. You can use it as a security system. You know, if you have other things going on in the house, you don't have to waste it on just routing. It can do other functions. So, because it'll just be a normal Linux computer, to you, it will look like a normal Linux computer. You can plug it into your HDMI monitor and keyboard and mouse, and use it like a normal computer. So that is the plan that I have for coming up with software for an Intel NUC. Again, an Intel NUC is available for about $200, and I normally sell the Brax router software for $99. So it'd probably be the same thing. Okay, so some of you will say, well, I can just get, some cheapo whatever little device on, that runs only as a router. You will find that that's actually not as simple as you think. This one's pretty much plug and play. When you use a Brax router, everything is already pre-configured in. It even self-updates, and you don't really have to do much of anything. That's why it ran so well on a Raspberry Pi, because you just plugged in Raspberry Pi and just worked. It ran headless, and this is going to be the same here. If you do not have a monitor and keyboard, just plug it in, it'll work. You can access it remotely. Okay, so video is freezing. Okay, we'll deal with that. You don't need to worry about that. Anyway, I'll offer that as a product. Fortunate for me, I'm a techie, so I can do that. I can program these things, and if there's interest in them, then I can do them. If nobody's interested, then I won't do them. So, yeah, I can offer services when it's contributing to all of you. And one of the things that you can add to a Intel NUC that you can't do on a Raspberry Pi, for example, is we can install SyncThing. SyncThing can back up your phones. So if you install SyncThing on your phones and make the Intel NUC running as a router, also as your photo backup, this can all happen automatically. So you don't have to think about it. You can just say, okay, I'm going to program SyncThing on the Intel NUC, and now you have a dual purpose instead of just whatever cheapo device you're going to get on the internet. Okay, and it's a real computer. So if you decide you want to use something else, you can use the device for something else. Okay, so anyway, Intel NUC. So that's the future plan, because it may be that we have to dump the Raspberry Pis. I'm broke and I need a cheap 4G supporting degoogleable phone suggestions. The cheapest phone I have are the Pixel 3As. They're 300 some bucks. They're 300 some bucks. So yeah, so they're the cheapest deal right now. I don't have a lot of them, and we may run we may need to run like a summer sale here. So anyway, that's something to consider. Maybe if you're in the market for considering some cheap phones, we may do a summer sale on Brex 2 sometime in the summer. So we may do that, and negotiating a deal where I can get them cheaper so I can sell it to you cheaper. I might find an old Pixel, but it might not be supported. That's correct. If I find an old Pixel, it may not be supported. Right. And then 50% of pixels cannot be de-Googled. The other thing I can do, Radom Keldman, is sometimes I have, phones that are not in tip-top shape. Like I have a 4A that the back isn't shiny. I mean, it's not mint. It's actually still pretty good, but it's not in mint condition. And I can sell those for a good discount. So those may even be cheaper. So I'm going to look for those and, maybe offer those cheap phones. I mean, they're perfectly fine. They're just, have some visual minor defects. There's one with a kind of a minor scratch around the lens. I'm talking about the edges of the lens, not the lens, but the square, where the paint came off a little bit. Very slight. I mean, it's so slight, but that's to me is enough to lower the price. Intel NUC is $200. So anyway, for those with a budget problem, I can come up with a solution here, but give me some time here because we got some issues here we got to solve. So especially today. So I have a backlog here. There's just tons to do. Site to order is everything is on Brax.me. Now, if you understand where you get your support is through Brax.me, the website Brax.me, or the phone app Brax.me. Everything you do is on Brax.me. VPNs, email, phones. That's where the service is. There's a community there of others who will help you. Even if you can't talk to me, somebody will already help you. All the support is provided on Brax.me. And Brax.me has a 1-year, Brax 2, the Brax 2 phone has a 1-year warranty. The Pixels do not have a warranty beyond 30 days. They have 30-day warranty, that's it. So, what else? Okay, let me see. How do I upgrade it to newer version? I can't update the Lineage OS on my Brax phone anymore. That's the problem with Lineage OS. You can only update it within the version number. So let's say you have Lineage 18, you can't upgrade it to 19 or 20. Only we can do that. So you send it to us and we upgrade it for you, but it will reset. Otherwise, leave it the way it is. Doesn't matter. You can leave it the way it is if you don't want to lose your data. There's nothing wrong with leaving it the way it is. How about using Intel NUCs for a Blender reader farm? Some phone companies will not let you use a different router and app. You have to use theirs. I don't know which company that is, but my response to that company is "Zuck you, Mother Zucker." No zucking way. I'm not gonna. If a company restricts my use of the internet to say, you only have to use our router, I'll say, fuck you. I'm not going to go to you. Can any antivirus... Do not ever use an antivirus. Especially not Norton. Just watch my last video. Watch my last video and, tell me if you trust the company that makes Norton. Very untrustworthy company. Very untrustworthy. They got split up already, but they're still untrustworthy. A lot of you didn't like my video, apparently, because it has very low views. So, it's such an important video. Can Tel NUC mine crypto? It can, but not inexpensively. It'll be very slow. The idea of mining crypto is you need super fast computers. like Nvidia cards and stuff like that, and you're like doing it. You watched it twice. 007 watched it twice, and most people didn't watch it. Most people didn't watch it. It was very important. Do not use McAfee. Why would you use McAfee? No, no antivirus. You don't need any antivirus. If you're running Windows, use the whatever is built into Windows. Not any more than that. There is no Brax2 base phone. The Brax2 base phone is a Brax2 base phone. Brax2 is Brax2. Okay? Brax2 is Brax. Do not use an antivirus. That's nonsense. Yeah, they've been getting your money free. So I'm saving your money. Do not spend your money on Norton antivirus or any sucking antivirus. You can use Windows Defender for free if you want. For the money you save, you can use. You can maybe think about using Braxmail or Bytes VPN or one of our services. Yes, it is special hardware, and it will continue to be unique hardware to us. So obviously, we're working on the next model phone. So I think it's going to look good. The next model phone. I think it's going to look good. Can your VPN be used on an Apple laptop? Yes, of course. It's used on any device. eSIM options. Why would you want eSIM? Do not use eSIM. Your question should be the opposite. Can we use your phone without an eSIM? And the answer is yes. Yeah, there will be, obviously there will be a Brax 3. Yes, or Brax X3 or whatever. Yeah, so that's, there will be one sometime later this year. So, yeah, so yes, we're working on that. I don't have any specs. We're working on it. McAfee used it. Look at where it got him. McAfee hasn't been involved with McAfee antivirus since the 90s. I mean, he quit that company. He cashed out and left that long ago. So McAfee antivirus at various periods was owned by different companies, including Intel. Intel owned McAfee antivirus for a while. And if you ask John McAfee if he would use a McAfee antivirus, he would say, hell no. And I'm telling you also, hell no, don't use it. Don't use it. Oh, aside from the popular antivirus like McAfee and Norton antivirus, which I tell you do not use, many of you use Avast, especially if you have a Mac. You say, oh, I'm going to use Avast. There's a Mac. Watch my last sucking video. So yeah, Avast puts a fake root certificate in there. They could actually spy on your internet sucking traffic. Can you please explain how to use the VPN on the laptop? You install the software we tell you to download. You download it and you follow the instructions or watch the video, and then that's it. Used to stop offering me your videos. Well, of course. If you guys don't watch my videos, they stop feeding it to you. So if I'm becoming boring to you, then understandably they're not going to feed you my video. So it's my fault. If it's my fault. I found I looked at my last, like last year, where I had probably the lowest views last year, and my channel wasn't growing, and I was like wondering, why is that? And the answer was that I did not pay attention to the titles. I did not pay attention to the thumbnails, and the topics were just not interesting to you, even though the content is as deep as it always is. And it's my fault. So I need to be more, conscious of what I put in the thumbnail and make sure it's more interesting to you. I'm very consistent in what I do. So if you religiously watch my videos, you're going to be at a high level very soon. The thing is that I'm the only channel that actually provides you with a lot of data. I mean, I give you a lot of detail. Many channels will just talk in general about something without actually explaining to you, what the basis of it is. And I give you a lot of detail, and what I base my comments on, and very few will do that. And some of you will reject that and say, well, you give us too much detail. Okay, I get that, but that's what's unique about this channel. If you want to go to these people who think they know about privacy and security and so on, but they don't really know anything, you're going to get bad advice. I was told somebody said that some popular creator, one of the other channels that like mine, is saying that the phone is the safest thing, safer than a computer. Somebody also said that things that are contradictory to what I say here, and you can think that these people know what they're talking about. You see, I don't look at any of these other channels. I don't know what they tell you. I don't know what they say. I don't need to concern myself with that, because I know that I know more than they do. So, if you think that there's some of these channels that are tech channels, and they give false information all the time. Some of you were even going to Brax me and saying, "Oh, this guy is good. He gives good advice." And I looked at some of that advice, and it's like, zucked up. Okay, zucked up. Some one of these guys were saying, a major channel saying, you don't need to use a VPN. I mean, you have no understanding of the threat model when you say you don't need to use a VPN. I mean, you have zero understanding of the threat model. I wish I don't have to use a VPN. I wish I don't have to. If there's a way around it, yeah, I wish I don't have to. But to go around making these statements, I don't know what the agenda is. Why would you say something that's patently false if you know what the threat is? And then they give you fake reasons for why you don't need a VPN. Oh, because they can watch you anyway and whatever. It's like, who's your threat? You think a little VPN company is going to worry about tracking you and selling your data? Well, a little VPN company, for example, mine, I mean, I don't have enough data to even sell. Even if I'd wanted to do that. That's not the one to fear. To fear the big players who have all your data. So somebody would say, oh, I don't need a VPN because I don't trust a VPN. And so I'm not going to use a VPN, which translates to, let me just translate what that means. It means I trust Google. I trust Apple. That's what translates to. Okay? I trust their DNS. I trust that they centrally collect all the data, and that's okay with me. Okay, if some creator on the internet saying something like that, then they really shouldn't claim to be in any kind of privacy field, because they're giving you obviously misguided information. Okay, so yeah, at some point maybe we don't need to use a VPN, and you don't if you're using LokiNet, if you can survive on Tor. Many of you can probably survive successfully on Tor and LokiNet combination. Tor is very heavily locked up. You can't go. Many websites have anti-Tor detectors, so Tor doesn't work on most anything. Fortunately, LokiNet is so low key. Low key. LokiNet, if you watch my LokiNet video, is low key, and you install the software and you can use theirs, and it's faster than Tor by a lot. Yes, I know McAfee is dead. I interviewed John McAfee. Nice guy. I interviewed him. So, and even, and he followed me on Twitter as well. How to prevent phone number swap. Watch my video. SIM swap video. Any site that's too good for Tails or Tor is too good for me. Tails a little hardcore. I don't know if you need to go so hardcore. I can't use Tails for what I do. It's probably too hardcore for me. But it's okay if that's what you want to do. Have you talked to Michael Bazzell about I don't know who Michael Bazzell is. Is there a delay? What else? Okay, so let me. You like the detail, soy lady. Yeah. So yes, on my channel, it's pretty heavy on the detail, and some of you will hear some words that you may not understand, but you'll encounter it often enough, and it'll start to make sense, and then you'll actually see that there's a dedicated video on it. So, for example, supple. So I have a dedicated video on supple NLP location tracking and that whole morass. And very, very significant video. It's very advanced and very important because it talks about things that no one has ever talked about before. Things that some cybersecurity people claim does not exist is talked about in the supple NLP video. I can't believe this. Actually, some cybersecurity people from certain groups on Reddit claim that I'm fear mongering when I actually provided the detail in that video, supple NLP location tracking. And they claim that tracking does not exist. They don't do Wi-Fi triangulation. They don't do all that. You stupid fucking fools. There's even a name for it, network location provider. People are getting sick from are people getting sick from 5G that you know of? Ruby people can get sick from 3G, so there's nothing actually different. I don't feel I'm sensitive to radiation, so I don't necessarily react to it. But so I'm probably in a highly radiated environment here because I got 10 million phones in my location, which are all probably emitting something. Is there anything IoT that's not on the naughty list? Yes. If you make your own, like I do, I make my own cameras, and I actually recommended a doorbell camera that was on my Christmas list. And I'm using it. I've been using it, and it's actually, has many of the features you expect from like Ring cameras without the zucking danger of Ring. So my door camera looks like Ring. It's not Ring, but it looks like Ring. And my FedEx delivery guy was covering his face because he thought it was Ring camera because he knows better. So I said, no, don't worry. It's not Ring. It doesn't go on the internet. So yes, so my doorbell camera is not internet based, so runs fine. It actually does pretty well. I mean, it does most things that you expect, a doorbell camera to use. So in your house, you can go look at your phone and see who's at the door. So it's working fine. UFees, or how do you pronounce that? UFees. So UFees is one model, and the model I'm using is Eossu, which is the same as the UFee. It's actually the same. It's just, I think they just rebranded it. So UFee, however I pronounce it, if I'm not pronouncing it right, you guys can correct me. But I'm using Eossu, or UFee is, those are the same. So they're okay. I've tested them. So Eossu and UFee are the same. I think they have different servers because they're owned by different aggregators, but I believe it's the same hardware. So those two are okay, and they beat the price. I can't make a camera at that kind of cost on that kind of cost basis. So especially, I can't even buy Raspberry Pi at that. I can't buy any hardware for that price. So it's a pretty good deal. So I recommend it. It works fine. I still use my own cameras. I happen to have spare Raspberry Pis, and I happen to have my own software running them, so nobody can invade my software because I wrote them. What would be the good IMSI detector app other than Snoop Snitch? Uh, Justin, I'm going to give you a tip. That's actually a good question, Justin, which fits the topic of the video. I'm going to give you a good tip here, because in order for, and by the way, IMSI catchers are not needed as much anymore, and the reason is if they want to spy on your communications, by intercepting your calls, they don't have to go use an IMSI catcher for that. They can spy on you from inside the phone network using the Kalia law equipment. So they don't have to do that. They can just dial in. For example, the FBI can do that. They can just dial into the carrier, listen in directly to your calls. So as far as listening into the calls, you're zucked. There's nothing you can do. If you're using the public switch telephone network, you're zucked. Okay, now, what about IMSI catchers as used in the January 6th Capitol riots? I told you you can remove the SIM card, right? So yes, that's one way. That's one way to do it. But is there a way to detect if somebody's using an IMSI catcher near you? Well, fortunately, there's many ways that you can do it without even needing anything sophisticated. All you need to do is find some app, and there are many, that can locate cell towers. Actually, I found several, and what am I using on mine here? There was one called Cell something. Let's see if I can find it. I can't remember the name of the app, but some app, phone. This one says phone. I wonder if this is the one here. Phone signal. That's one. So anyway, what you're trying to do is find some app that can find cell towers. There are many of them, and they work. So here's the thing. Cell towers, if you have a pattern, if you look at the cell towers in your area, let's say you're at home, and you can list the cell towers that are in your area, and you just make a note of what they are. If you suspect that there's going to be a IMSI catcher near you, then all you have to do is look at your tower app and see if this tower's changed. What will change is that the IMSI catcher will have the strongest signal because they're closest to you. So if you notice a stronger cell signal than it was possible before, and the tower is 10 blocks away, and suddenly the signal is stronger than it was, that implies that there's a stingray near you. So it's pretty easy to catch. I mean, you don't need any special software to figure this out. Okay, so that's all you need. I should probably make a video about that, right? So, but that's all you need to know if there's a reason to do IMSI catcher. Maybe I'll make a video about that. Show you exactly what I mean. So you make a pattern. I have to go somewhere else so you see different cell towers than what's in my actual area. So it's kind of hard to make that video. But yeah, so that's a good video topic. So I go somewhere else. I track the video locations, and then you look for the cell tower change. If the cell tower changes and you're not moving, you're in your same house, what is the only possibility? The only possibility is that there's an IMSI catcher. Okay? And in fact, if you go in around to some cities like Washington, D.C., and, somebody made a video on YouTube where they have an IMSI catcher detector looking at this and to see if, which cell tower is querying their phone. And they found that as they went by certain embassies, the Russian embassy, then an IMSI catcher will connect. Okay, so that's how they would do that. So same kind of logic. So many of the foreign governments will have IMSI catchers so they can track whoever's around the embassy. So spy stuff. So it's kind of exciting to know that you can do that, and you don't need any fancy software. I just have to find an app that works, and it will work. And then we can do this. This can be a fun thing. Okay, you gave me an idea for a video. I'll study that. I'll study that. Okay, good. If you think it's an interesting video, you just gave me a topic. Okay, we're down to 10 minutes, so let me see. The video may be laggy depending on your platform. So yeah, I can't see any. I can't see the detector here that says there's a lag. I guess I can see that my internet connection is not steady. I can see that now, yeah. So it hasn't been good lately. It's just been up and down. So, and I can't use Starlink. When I delete all data in Session Messenger and log out later, when I write the seed to recover my account, all the messages are saved and appears. Yeah, because it's going to save it in the swarm for 2 weeks. So if you want to solve that, somebody gave a... I don't think you have to worry about that. You really shouldn't have to worry about that because you have the private key. Nobody else has that private key. So even if it's in the swarm, nobody can capture your data. They don't have the private key to see it. The private key is not communicated to anyone outside of your Session app. I wouldn't worry about that. But if you wanted to, there's actually a nice little trick that somebody came up with, completely unnecessary in my opinion, and that is you set up this person set up 2 Session apps on 2 devices. Then on one of the devices, put a timeout and saying delete the messages after X amount of time. And that would delete it from the swarm, but the other phone still had all the existing messages on the device itself, and so it just deleted from the swarm. I don't think this is essential, just the way, if you understand how the swarm works. First of all the traffic in Session is only in the dark net. You can't see it from the internet, so there's no way to even know what the traffic is. Now, in addition to that, without the private key, there's no way you can even retrieve or even decrypt messages in Session. How are you going to do that without the private key? So you don't even know what the private key is. So how do you know even which messages to look at? So I really wouldn't be concerned about it at all. It's not relevant to me as a threat. You cannot observe low-key-net or Session traffic from the internet. There's no way to do that. Everything is happening on the dark net. Okay, so cybersecurity conference open to general public. You can all go to Black Hat and DEF CON. That's open to the public. Wow, my connection is really unstable. I can see that. I mean, it's still functional, but it's not at the highest speed. Yeah. So anyway, important thing is the voice. As long as the voice is coming through and the connection is okay, at least for voice. It doesn't actually stop. It's just not feeding you 1080p. So it's probably feeding 720 or yeah, it's flowing at about 720. Yeah. Okay, so it's not, you don't have to see me. It's not important to see me. So we got 5 minutes, and let's see if there's anything somebody is asking that's important. I don't actually go to any security conference. I have not been to DEF CON or Black Hat. I just watch the videos. Yeah, I don't have time. So winds are it is so cold and windy for California, for Los Angeles here. It's just this is why even indoors I gotta wear this. I mean, it is so cold for us. So yeah. Have you heard of Internet in a Box off-grid open source solution with Nextcloud built-in software? There are many off-grid solutions to internet, not internet, but there are many off-grid solutions, including in ham radio, that I have made a video about to run a network in a private space. For example, if you happen to have a commune and you want everyone to have network access, and you can use Nextcloud and all that inside that, yes, that can be done. In fact, it can be done without connecting to the internet at all. I've demonstrated it. I have a video talking about that in one of my ham radio videos, like many years ago. You have your ham radio license, Robo 6079, Rob 6079. Yes, I have a general license. There's hail on the beach, yes. I heard there was hail in Venice. I mean, right next to me here. So, yeah. So, I did not see hail because I was indoors, but if there's hail on the beach, and I'm right next to the beach, so there must have been hail around me. Shortwave radio is still being used. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, you can still hear people on shortwave. I mean, just ham radio. So I have all that. That's HF. So I can still hear that. But ham radio you can transmit. We don't transmit on the shortwave stations. That's for shortwave broadcasters, but we can actually transmit in between those. Will you do a video about Starlink? At the moment, I don't have anything good to say about Starlink. In fact, Starlink has raised their prices. So apparently the demand over where I am is so high that the Starlink signal, that's why Starlink here is bad. There's not enough satellites. So because of that, I'm using Starlink. I can't use it for live streaming because the performance just isn't there. So yeah, so I'm not going to be saying too many good things on the Starlink side. The good news is that your security is okay on Starlink. You don't need a VPN on Starlink because it's using IPv6 with an IPv4 backbone. So your IPv4 doesn't actually display anywhere. So in that sense, it is kind of like a VPN. So security-wise, it's okay. Okay, so I guess we're out of time here. So, by the way, yeah, I have a locals account. It's called robbraxman.locals.com. And it's an alternative to Patreon, and they support me better. They take less of a cut. And if you want to support me on that, that's really going to be so appreciated. robbraxman.locals.com. So Locals is a competitor to Patreon. So guys, I'm out of time. So thank you so much for watching, and I will be busy solving some of the bricking problems, and hopefully that gets resolved soon. Thank you very much for watching, and see you later. Bye bye.